Is this the right Zoom?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Right meeting?
Check.
Well, I guess, is Amy out?
That's a good question. Let me check the
I've
all
seen her
teams
through
signed
there.
up for today. Apparently, Robert is finishing up the fire drill. Oh, I guess they had another meeting. Late.
The deployment exercise meeting.
Yeah, it could be.
Let's see. Yeah, they're in there.
Hello, sorry, we overran on fire drill. So just joining now. Awesome. So just want to say firstly on MTTP, so I'm still tracking on the deployment blockers. Last week looked pretty healthy. I can actually only update the target monthly because that's what we track on. So I will see how things go this week, but if it continues, if it looks like it did last week and we have a calm week for deployments and incidents, then I will probably just switch the target back down to 12 hours. But I'll put that in Slack later in the week. But nice work, Yorick and Robert, like things are looking pretty nice. Awesome. There's a couple of read-only announcements just to keep you up to the loop. And then discussions. So first one, Yorick is off to join Sharding. So from May 10th, but he's out next week. So he's here, he's around this week. Is there anything people need from him? Like, what are you most concerned about with Yorick leaving? Like, is there anything we could demo or write or share in this week? Also, little thing to go with this, that like, he's not dead. So, you know, like he will still be available after the 10th, but just not, maybe not quite as much as he has been.
I'm gonna personally be missing the updates on his perils of shipping and the occasional astronomy update. So if you could still come and join us for our delivery weekly, that'd be wonderful.
I mean, I can share them in delivery lounge, delivery lounge and such. It's no problem.
I like the way, Skarbek, you just assume they're going to continue for like indefinitely, that whatever Yorick ever orders is not going to arrive when it's expected.
We're joking, but it's true. Like I ordered some switch loop from a Norwegian shop. They're sending it from France, but they are batching it up. So it's now in like pre-transit. And they said like, oh yeah, they can take up to 2 weeks. So I'm like, okay, great.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, if anyone thinks of anything throughout this week or next week, then let's get something sorted out there. Awesome. And this might actually be your last delivery weekly, Yorick. If that is the case, then like we should say, I mean, obviously you can still come, like Jarvis we still let Jarv in, so you're still welcome to join if you want. But thank you for your delivery efforts, and good luck with the sharding. Cool. So on B. So epic status. So for the last few weeks, thank you for all of you who've been putting our epic statuses on your epics. I wanted to just try and move this to the next stage. So what I'm using epic statuses for is to update the parent epics is my primary goal, so that people who are outside of the team can just land in one place and get a nice overview of like, here's what we're working on, here's what's going on, here's what's coming next. And I tend to think of somebody like Steve as the kind of like general user, right? So he's interested in what we're doing. He has some understanding of what we're doing. He's not in the team, but he's also quite likely to be asked by other people outside, like, hey, what's delivery working on? So it's somewhere that he can come and just get like a quick snapshot of what's happening. Right now, it's taking me quite a lot of time to compile this stuff. So I do the epic updates, and that's where I generate the SAS weekly agenda from on a Thursday as well. So it's taking me quite a lot of time to pull these together. And mostly that's because I do it manually. So what I really want to do is automate this. But in order to automate it, it'd be really helpful if they were all like a standard format, so that would make things easier. So now we've been doing this for a little bit. I wanted to see if we could actually agree on what that standard format should look like. Scalability do this as well. So it might be nice to just like standardize with scalability as well, but we don't absolutely have to. So fully open for here. But my proposal would be that on your epic, there's a status and a date, and then a description, few sentences, what we're working on, why we're working on it, and what the next steps are. And then each week, just clear down the date and the status and replace it with your current one. And I can just pull that up. And then that just means that we always just have like one small chunk of information that people can read. They don't have to concatenate other things together. They have to read comments and things like that. But how does that sound for the rest of you?
Overall, it sounds okay. The only thing I question is the why. That should be elsewhere in the epic or issue description. I don't think we need to reiterate the why unless there's something related to that specific step that we're stuck on that we need to explain further. But I feel like that would be traced into the issues that are leading up to that epic that we're working on.
So I find the why is kind of useful. It's probably, I guess it's not like useful on the big project thing, like why are we migrating Kubernetes? Like, yes, absolutely, people can just read that. I think it's useful to know why we're doing a specific task. So like, I guess I'm thinking about this more at a task level. So for example, your case, like Skarbek, like investigating buffering, or, you know, like investigating Nginx configuration, like that's a perfectly reasonable status, but it doesn't give people too much. So I think the why is probably more on the issue level, like why are we moving Slack notifications to release tools? Like, you know, what does that actually give us? Why did we choose that over something else? Are there anything from your side? So this status also might be useful for kind of keeping in touch with other things inside the team. Like, is there anything on here that is there anything else you'd like to see on a status?
I think
Go ahead, sir.
I think that I guess if we need to fit this into the weekly status update SAS meeting and things, it needs to be short, right? It can't be very long. So
yeah, you can write as much as you like, actually. So the SAS Weekly has actually become interesting in that it's read only, this section. So actually, like you can, I mean, if it's really long, if you write a small essay, then yeah, I'll probably edit it down a little, but like, don't feel too like a chunky paragraph's completely fine.
I wouldn't want to read a full epic just to get a status update. So it should be short, I guess, preferably. And
exactly.
just a summary. And I wonder if we not also should try to standardize on often we have these kind of tables with other issues that are related and in which status they are, like pending, or if we are at standardizing this, maybe we should also think about this format maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Easier to read. I don't have a concrete proposal for how to do this best, but just thinking that we can maybe find other things to standardize here. And maybe for automation, we should maybe have some special starting and beginning sections, maybe as a comment to make it easier to pass out or something like that. I don't know.
We possibly could. Like generally the, I'll check in on that one. I was gonna just, Rachel has a script that she uses. She has hers running on CI and it updates every hour or something. So then you're also got a bit more freedom about when you do it. So I'll check in on her script. Generally, I think it's just looking for status and then it just pulls that chunk. So, but I can double check that, yeah.
Okay, I need to run to the door.
Are there any concerns about doing this? Anyone feel like this is adding too much?
Well, I had this conversation when we were starting doing this, right? So it's kind of shifting things from you to us. So it's I mean, every one of us has less things to follow up. So, I mean, it's perfectly fine. And it also may help creating a clear view on the epic issue. So down below, what I don't like, and so because none of my epic follow this this way you're suggesting, but I don't like the fact that we override the status. Because this is good if you want to see the latest status, but someone wants to understand, maybe someone is interested in understanding what happened over the course of time. And the fact that it changes the status, I don't like it. So, I mean, because you're going to use an automation, I think that I will probably use an automation as well to do kind of the opposite. So I write my status as a comment so that I have my linear version of it. And this will replace with the status in the, so we just select the last one and replace it in the issue description. Because obviously I was testing two different way of doing this. One was manually adding status with date every time. So you have this journal of status. And the other one was using Discoto when I was just adding the status, and so letting Discoto summary, using the summary features to bring it up so that I could write more in my message and then just select which point I want to outline above. I mean, then I don't know how many people read those things. So maybe it's fine to just have the short version and replace it every time. But I personally don't like the idea that we are changing and losing the information. I mean, we lose the information over time. So why are we doing this now? But what have we done in the past? So the status from previous weeks.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. What do other people think? Like, with epics that you're like reading, is it useful to see status over time? Like,
I think in those cases, I mostly really start reading the comments in the epic, which I would think would track what happened, right, and why. And I think maybe really in the description as a summary, maybe really you should have the short version of it. I don't know. It could be a lot of content after a while, right? I mean, having a nice summary of how things changed could be nice there. But anyway, if you really need to understand what's happening there, you need to read the comments section anyway, right? So I'm not sure.
Yeah, but this not often happen in the epics. So especially when we are working epics, true, yeah. They're kind of containers, right? So oftentimes the conversation is down below into issues, merge requests, or things like that. And so there are epics where you have a lot of conversation going on. I mean, they exist, but oftentimes they're just empty. You just see the.
Right. In this case, it wouldn't help. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not against it.
I think if you can automate it, it sounds awesome. That sounds like maybe the best thing, right? Like where you've got that freedom. Because yeah, you don't want to have to create this, like you'd have to write it in multiple places. Let's continue to iterate on this. Like, so I think as much as we can, like, let's standardize, but I'm also like very, like, if we want to kind of keep if you think it's useful to have this like as a timeline, I think the comments work best to keep the timeline because you get all the extra stuff and you can share it more easily. Then we can find a way to pull that up into the main one and standardize there.
We can probably have two sections. We can have the status that represents the last status, the current one, and the development log or timeline that states how it has evolved across time. It shouldn't be that long, just a summary of what has happened.
Yeah, but I was
it means a
complaining
bit more
about the
work,
amount
right?
of work.
Yeah.
Right. So if I just write a comment in the epics with status, date, and then my status, and then I have something to just pull it up on top, replacing with just the latest one, and so you can still read the timeline. But I don't have, because if I have to section in the epics, then every week I have to remember to, okay, this was last one, I have to remove it, adding something in a new one, cut and paste things here, there, which I don't want to spend time doing. And on the other hand, because I spent time writing those status update, I don't want to lose them over time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm okay with the format and everything. I mean, just I know myself, so I probably figure out something to just automate this because I don't want to lose those information.
I mean, the other thing is we could do what Henry said and actually just indicate more the start and end. We could put that around the latest status.
Do we have some product feature where you can, in a command, put in a / command saying update description or something like that? I mean, that would be a cool feature for exactly this case, right? Like I want to comment here, but I want to get this added or replacing some place in the description. Could be a nice feature, maybe.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, for now, let's put a standardized thing on it. But I'm very happy to keep chatting about how we track this over time so we don't lose the efforts put in. So cool. Mayra.
Yep, thanks. So probably most of you already know, but we now trigger individual deployments for each of our environments, and those are coordinated by release tools. So just this is more like an announcement. I don't know if anyone has questions, comments, complaints about this.
Great work. I think it's exciting to see it there. One question I had, I don't know if it was just so last week when I had that, when I saw that pipeline coming through with the bug, I wanted to cancel the deployment. Do you still have to do this in deployer, or do you do this in release tools? If I wanted to cancel, say a pipeline kicks off and I know I don't want it to deploy to Canary, how do I cancel that?
Yeah, you will need to cancel it in release tools.
Unless it started.
Yeah,
Okay.
unless it started.
So ahead of time, release tools is perfect. If it started, then yeah, it's another problem.
So I've done this already. So during the handoff, Alessio gave me a package that should not be promoted to production. So I found the release tools pipeline and made sure I canceled the job associated with what would trigger the production deploy.
Nice. Cool. Very nice.
Awesome. So I also have the next point, and I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to this merge request that is setting some sort of proposal for security merge requests for feature flags. And I think this proposal introduces more questions and problems than solutions. So particularly, I don't enjoy it because it allows self-hosted instances to opt out of security fixes. There is no clear indication of what we should do about backports. Should the backports also have a feature flag? Should they don't? If they have the feature flag, when the feature flag is going to be removed on the next security release, on the next patch release. And also, if a security merge request is deployed to GitLab.com and the feature flag is enabled, and this one doesn't solve the security vulnerability, what should we do in that case? Do we need to rush to prepare another fix before the security release is published, or do we need to prepare a critical security release for that one only? So I don't know what everyone else thinks about this.
I agree. I'm interested that this proposal has come from security, however. So I think I will have to spend a bit more time thinking about it, but I guess from our side, we should probably focus on, is it going to make our job harder? Like, how does it impact release management? Because I think if security are willing to approve this, then I'm hoping they've considered the security implications.
I think they are. I don't think they are considering the whole release implication and the whole process changes that it means for us, because they are not really sure. Okay, I asked, what should we do if the security vulnerability is not fixed, and they haven't answered. And they don't outline what should we do about backports. Should they also include the feature flag? I think they are more focusing on trying to include a feature flag in a safe way from a security perspective, but they are not considering the release perspective on this process.
Yeah, that's the bit I think we need to make it clear for them, to help them like go through, maybe outline to them what the process looks like, the assumptions we have, and see. If we don't go too far forwards with this, like if you don't feel like they're paying enough attention, please just schedule a sync, and then we can talk through like what might be involved there.
Okay.
I think that I was release manager when something like this happened, where we ended up moving a feature flag on the namespace level to allow a paying customer, an important one, to have it disabled on their namespace on GitLab.com. I'm kind of sure that I remember something like this happening. I would say that if we are going to introduce mandatory feature flags, they should be also in backports, because it will add a lot of work for preparing backports if they don't have the feature flags. So, I mean, in the interest of time. And I kind of understand why they want to do this, because maybe that specific problem doesn't apply to their configuration, but the fix will completely break their workflow. They'll say, yeah, we are not suffering this security risk, so we are not going to accept this. I kind of understand why. It's the fact that they can't answer your question is, it tells you that, I mean, even without feature flag, they can't answer that question. Because what if we, without a feature flag, merge something that is supposed to fix the security issue and is not? Every time it happened, we had to deal with consequences of each choice. So either delay, don't delay, let the information out. So it's a process around this that is kind of tricky, and so this is not specific to introducing the feature flags or not. But I'm concerned by the fact that someone with database access could, let's say, disable a security fix. Maybe you have a remote code execution, and then you just need database access to disable it. Yeah, I mean, it's good. You can self-serve yourself into enabling security vulnerability, which is kind of dangerous.
If we should make sure before this gets merged, assuming it gets merged, that we have a clear agreement on what we're going to do with backports. Like, like we can't just change our process afterwards. Like, we'll need to agree security is taking on responsibility for checking these things or making sure this stuff's okay, and we will be coordinating the deployment, or the release. I'll add a comment on that though. Cool, thanks for bringing that up, Mayra. That's a good one. I'm going to hand over host responsibilities because I'm going to drop on the past. So I just mentioned that. You can all keep going, of course. Jav, over to you though.
Oh yeah, just a quick about the setting feature flags during deployments. If we're all okay, I guess Amy, maybe you're the last person to act this. It sounds like we're generally okay with this, but if anyone objects, can you just add it to the issue? I'm happy to make this change. I also added a comment under the single or the new pipeline thing, letter C. If someone has an answer, just you can comment underneath the in the doc. That's it for me.
Cool, thanks for that. I'll have a read through and add a comment on those things. Thanks for that, Jav.
Jarv, could you expand a bit more on JSON.NET for config generation?
Yeah,
What
no,
are
I'm
we
just wondering,
doing?
like, as our GitLab CI gets more complicated, it seems like we're using JSONnet in other projects to generate CI config, and it might be nice to standardize early for that. If we're at the point where release tool CI, as I imagine, it's getting more complicated as we move, like, deploy our functionality into release tools, right? It's just a thought. I don't know, like, maybe something to consider.
Just a follow-up question. So are we using our dynamic pipeline feature so that we generate the pipeline with JSON.NET in CI and then trigger the generated file, or is kind of compiled
usually
externally and committed?
Right now, it's often just a make target, but it would be nice if this was natively supported. Maybe it will eventually be, but usually it's just a make target.
I think it is. So if you have a script to generate a working CI file, you can trigger it.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, what I've seen, I think, like, we need to standardize across different teams probably for this sort of thing. But what I've seen so far is just a make target. So you would check in the generated.
So my point is that release tools, I think, is still manageable right now. I think we are at a point where we will probably split into multiple files, but it seems to be quite straightforward. I mean, there's no explosion of jobs like it happened in the deployer. So with variables and things like that, you can do the same thing on production, canary, or things like that. And because we also have more code available and less pipeline code, it's kind of easier to handle differences in Ruby instead of having the explosion of CI options. Just quick thought on it.
Yep.
Okay, Amy dropped it out, and so I think that everyone was expecting her to ask, do we have other questions on the recording? Okay, no questions, so